Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. My name is Taj Aklika, and it's a privilege and honor to provide my voice to this unique space in the history of the Surrey Estate and Darul Islam community. A walk down memory lane. This picture was taken in the garage of the first acting Imam, Imam Ahmad Tyers Noordin. He was affectionately known by this name as he sold motorcar tires. Haji Hassan Sanchi Hartley was the Khatib. Here in the center, Imam Noordin is seen with the title deed for the purchase of 2 plots of vacant ground. The ground was purchased around 1952 on the Grand Parade in Cape Town from a Jewish owner, Mr. Hayes, who was selling plots of land from a flea market table. Mr. Hayes encouraged the Surrey Estate Muslim community to buy his land to establish a Muslim church or mosque, and in doing so he could sell more land to Muslims who wanted to settle in Surrey Estate, previously known as Danafontein. He was selling both pieces of land for the price of the first plot, being £250, with the second plot free. The elders had great wisdom in that they did not want to accept the land free from a non-Muslim, but rather negotiated to purchase it at a very low price of approximately £10. And so the total cost for the land was £260. The Darul Islam Mosque Board was then established in 1954. Families and individuals contributed via regular collections by dedicated people who collected from door to door through the then bush as it was at the time, and there are far too many names to be mentioned. The Darul Islam Mosque Board, seen in this photograph from left to right, seated are Haji Hassan Hartley, Secretary; Haji Talib Tape, Chairperson; Imam Ahmad Tyers Noordin; Buta Mavi and Buta Far. Standing from left are the first 3 persons not known to us as yet: Buta Manji van der Fort, Collector; Buta Ali Basadin, Collector; Buta Yusuf Dreyer, fondly known as Joe; Buta Ahmad and Buta Miller. Construction started as funds were donated by the Muslims, and these 2 pictures show the building progress on the 12th of April 1962. Seen here is the masjid, which was situated at the dead end, and at the back of the masjid was bush. The names of the founding members were then put in a jar and buried inside the foundation for barakah when the first corner was cast at the Pluto and Ganubi Road's corners. The foundation was laid to house a 2-story masjid for further expansion as the community would grow. Pluto and Ganubi Roads did not exist at the time. There was electricity available, as is evident with the overhead power cables and pole. The 2 arched doors with a fire escape and are still in place today. As was mentioned earlier, Imam Ahmad Noordin, residing in Torrid Road, then the Imam of the Hidayatul Islam Masjid in Kensington, was the first acting Imam, with Imam Hassan Hartley standing in as Imam when Imam Noordin was fulfilling duties at the Kensington Masjid. As the population increased, Imam Ismail bin Abdullah Johnston was appointed in an acting capacity in 1958. He was permanently appointed in 1960. This picture, dated 19th October 1962, depicts the masjid nearing completion. There was a main entrance on the Ganubi Road side, and also an entrance on the Pluto Road side, next to the main minaret alongside the center of the masjid. This entrance was not often used. The crescent and star was used around the top of the building to indicate that this was a Muslim place of worship. Here we can also see that electricity was available by the mains box on the wall outside on the Pluto Road side. The toilet and wudu area were where the Imam's office is today. This was the first Eid Salah at the new masjid led by Imam Hassan Hartley and some of the Jama'ah taking the time out to add a piece to history. Seen at the now corner to the driveway in Pluto Road outside the masjid, some of the names are: from back left, Yahya Abrams, father of Sheikh Irfan Abrams, Buta Noor, Buta Talib Tape, Buta Maki, the then Muaddin, and Imam Hassan Hartley. In the front, Hussein Sadin, Ahmad Hamildin, Buta Mavi, Yusuf Falanda, Ali Basidin, Haki Cubido, Haji Hamad Richards, and Adam Falanda. This picture was taken on Eid Day with some of the committee members outside a house somewhere in Taurus Road. This picture was taken with a view of the women in the masjid. The women were the driving force of the masjid where activities were concerned. There were practically two committees: the mosque board, which was only men, and then another, which was the women committee. These pictures clearly illustrate that the masjid was the center of the Muslim community in Surrey Estate, as Maulud, Ruwa, Mi'raj, regular Thursday evening Khaddats, Tamating, where students completing the recitation of the Quran took a ghusl, dressed in thobes and a soroban, were then escorted from their homes with two best men carrying the Quran on a cushion and madora to the masjid, thereafter being led to the front and tested by great shuyukh at the time. They had to be lanja in their couplets, and that is memorizing fiqh and other subjects by heart. The masjid was adorned with flags, flowers, stars and palm tree branches. This picture clearly shows the voorwerk and then the ashraqal being made by the Jamaat led by Imam Ahmad Noordin. This picture shows that there were only two windows between the mihrab in the front of the masjid. This photograph was taken in 1969. This is the first extension to the masjid to accommodate the growing Muslim community. It seems that Mr. Hayes' plan had succeeded in setting plots to Muslim settlers. An exact similar size extension was added to the left-hand side, and the mihrab shifted to the center as viewed in this picture. We will notice that the main or central minaret in Pluto Road was extended quite high to expose the grandeur of the masjid complex, but had to be broken down as Pluto Road. Then a gravel dirt road would have been converted as a main road for buses to transit through. There were fears that the traffic movement up and down Pluto Road would affect the high minaret. It was decided to build a high minaret on the other side of the masjid at a later stage. Here, the construction of the modern, commonly visual minaret is evident, with two new entrances with a foyer and a kitchen being added. Notice the bush in the background on the right-hand side of the masjid. This beautiful picture depicts the completion of the 1972 extension. Note the tarred Pluto and Ganubi roads in place. The small annex on the right side was the kitchen, used to prepare foods. Here can be seen the two new boundary entrances on the left and right, leading to the doors of the foyer of the masjid. Also note that decorative vibrecrete being the fashion of the time. The roof was constructed in an inverted manner, with the gutter in the center with downpipes running out on either side of the masjid. This was done so that the roof could be turned around as a pitched roof, as allocation was made with the high peripheral walls for a two-story masjid. This photograph was taken on the left-hand side of the mimbar. From left are Ahmed Bihardin, also affectionately known as Kersi, Amin Abrams, Sheikh Irfan Abrams' brother, Abdurrahman Manji van der Voort, Ali Basadin, Hassan Adams, and Buta Musa Francis. In the background, where the grilled blocks are seen on the right, behind is the area where the women occupied and muallimas held classes for ladies. This is one of the very rare photographs of Imam Ismail Johnston, rahmatullah alayh, affectionately known as Imam Confeit, as his family used to make confeit and sell it as a means of income. This was a nikah conducted by Imam Ismail Johnston in the mihrab of the masjid in 1972. Imam Ismail later disapproved of photographs, as the Holy Prophet ﷺ is reported to have advised that the one who creates an image will have to give life to it on the day of Qiyamah. Thus there is hardly any photograph of Imam Ismail Johnston around today. This photograph shows the detail which was incorporated in the finishing of the ceilings and pillars. The workmanship can still be admired in the Darul Islam Masjid today. Selfless giving and philanthropy formed the basis of the building project, and all labor employed was done without remuneration, solely for the sake and pleasure of Allah Almighty. The chandelier was the most modern of its kind and donated by families in the area. The knotty pine side paneling and green carpet was a long-time feature that Musallis had come to know the mosque by. On the right-hand side of this picture, the entrance to the kitchen can be seen, where the ladies used to serve the murids on big events. Some practices Muslims in Surrey Estate was, when Hujjaj were undertaking Hajj, they would walk down the streets, simulating the walk down to the docks, where Hajis would depart via ships to Makkah. This picture depicts a child in the masjid, which may cause many Surrey Estate residents to remember the times they spent as children, and who now have children of their own and still use the masjid as more than just a place of worship, but also a place of learning and development. In 1977, plans were drawn up for the building of the Madrasa section depicted here, and under the guidance of Imam Ismail Johnston rahmatullah alayhi. He declared that the madrasa must be built on taqwa, whereby non-Muslim artisans were not allowed to assist in the building project. The madrasa was not built as part of the masjid, as Imam Ismail advised that the women with haid could still attend classes when the madrasa is separate from the masjid. The madrasa is now housed in the new wudu area and toilet facilities. The old wudu and toilet area was converted into an imam's office. The Darul Islam Madrasa has played a pivotal role in attracting and educating large numbers of youth and elders from all around the peninsula. Imam Ismail Johnston rahmatullah alayhi was a dynamic personality and remained as the Imam of the Darul Islam Masjid until his demise in 1993. Imam Ismail Johnston rahmatullah alayhi conducted a thriving madrasa, and many students went on to study Islam overseas and others to become the current ulama of Cape Town. When Imam Ismail Johnston rahmatullah alayhi became ill, Sheikh Irfan Abrams and Sheikh Ibrahim Gabriels went on to study in Medina, and many imams assisted Imam Ismail Johnston rahmatullah alayhi while he was ill. On the return of Sheikh Irfan Abrams and Sheikh Ibrahim Gabriels, they were appointed by the mosque committee as co-imams in 1987. 1 year later, Sheikh Ibrahim Gabriels accepted the post of Imam at Masjid al-Rabi in Mitchell's Plain. In 1980, the foyer was extended and converted into a wudu area in the center, with a foyer and 2 new entrances on either side of the wudu area. The last renovation was done to completely facelift the interior of the masjid, where all the knotty pine paneling was removed and the old carpet was renewed in the 1990s until it is now currently. Darul Islam Masjid continues to serve as an institution of learning, spiritual development, social cohesion, and religious instruction. What commenced as a spiritual transaction with the purchase of land for a masjid in 1952 is now a center of learning, incorporating the Darul Islam Primary School, the Darul Islam Islamic High School, the Darul Islam Hafiz School, and numerous social initiatives which embrace the philosophy of spiritual and social growth and development based on faith and sound moral values. May Allah Almighty, in His infinite wisdom and mercy, bless all those who have and continue to selflessly serve our community's center of spiritual and social excellence. the Darul Islam Masjid. May this institution continue to grow to unprecedented heights. Shukran jazilan. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.